It seems like ever since that Cup appearance in 2011, it's like the Canucks have kind of been a no man's land. What's your take on him this year? I mean, Tocchet, I thought he gave him a good shot in the arm last year. Do you think they can make a bid for the playoffs this year with what they have there if Demko has a little bounce back here?
Yeah, Demko's a big part of it for me. Like, he only played 32 games last year, but he was 11-4-2 guys down the stretch. So he's still capable of being that goalie. Like, for that team to win, they need a star goalie. They need Demko to stand on his head like they used to. I mean, you look at Kuzmenko, had a huge year last year, 39 goals. Does he sophomore slump, right? That's another big if, because I still think they're pretty lean offensively. Kuzmenko, Miller, and then Pettersson. Pettersson's got some contract issues coming up. He doesn't want to negotiate during the season. Does that become a distraction in media Vancouver that we know loves distractions, right? Does that turn into a bigger deal as the season gets going?
Just a toxic media base, eh? Like, as far as them just stirring it up constantly.
They're not afraid of a negative story there. They are not afraid of it.
Hey,
I've never met one they didn't like.
Nothing to match a nice rainy day in Vancouver. Just drop the hammer. 4-2 win? Fucking, boom, bombshell.
We will tear this team apart by the seams. So I don't know. Like, can the Canucks, like, who's like a sleeper? If you want to talk serious, like a sleeper might be Mikheyev. Like, he again missed half. He's a plus 100 player for his career. Like, he's a good two-way player, and he just never really got going because of injuries last year. He could be a nice player that could kind of solidify them and make them a little bit harder to play against. Like, talk has kind of gotten a lot more to JT Miller. Can that continue? Their D is a lot bigger and more meat and potatoes now with Soucy and Ian Cole. Like, maybe that's what they need. Give Quinn Hughes the puck, let him move it, and then everyone else just hunker down and play defense and move the puck up.
Let's go back to Pettersson here. So from my understanding, he's asking for $11 million, maybe even a little bit more than $11 million.
Pay him.
But that's the thing. So he's got leverage because they don't have many offensive threats. And you mentioned they're a little bit thin offensively, but do you feel like his overall game deserves that much money, even though he is dynamic offensively? Or do you say, as an organization, prove it to me that you can get better on the defensive side of the puck and that you can play at that level, and then we'll hand over the money? Because nowadays it just seems like they're paying guys based on projections rather than what they've proven.
Yeah, but it's kind of been like that for a while, though, paying guys based on projections, right? Like, it used to be your third and fourth contracts you'd get paid, like when we played, and then it got a little bit less to your second contract, and now it's like entry level paid right away. So it's getting less and less. So that's kind of what it's become more like. You are getting paid on projections. But to your point, Biz, you're right. Like, you're giving over $10 million to somebody, they better really impact the game offensively and defensively. So him not signing a contract right now might work both ways, might give the team a little bit more time to see, is this the guy that's going to be our number one center on both ends? Is he going to be our Patrice Bergeron? Like, obviously not as good as Bergeron, although a lot of people in Vancouver feel like he could be Selke worthy at some point of his career. But that's probably what he needs to turn into to make that team into a team that can contend for a playoff spot every year.
For me, it's like just coming off what he did last year. He got over 100 points for the first time in his career. And like, I just think you could not even think about the Canucks losing him. So I understand that there's certain respects of like overpayment, but I think he's going to continue to climb. I think offensively, he's one of the top players in the league. So it'll be interesting to see how it ends up going down. But for you watching these games, what's your opinion on kind of where Brock Besser's at? Do you think he can still be 35, 40 goal guy? Like, can he get there? And in terms of skating, I know sometimes maybe slow feet is somewhat of an issue, but do you still think there's enough there for him to kind of light it up offensively and really carry that team?
And quickly, before you answer, his 5-on-5 game is where people seem to criticize at his lack of production. So to also hand over money to a guy like that who's not making that much of an impact 5-on-5 offensively, it's kind of what's hurting them in a sense.
Well, he's always been considered a skill guy with a really good shot. So half-wall power play shooter on the flank, skill guy. Like, the knock on him, and I mean, this is out there, is maybe not as hard to play against, not good on the boards, not in the best of shape.
Like, big guy.
Yeah. I think he's listed at 6'1", 208. Like, that's a pretty big winger, right? That's not a small guy. So, to his credit, I heard he had an unbelievable summer. So I heard they got on him really hard, and Talk wanted to make sure he was training. I think he changed gyms, changed trainers, and I heard he came back in really good shape. So that's a good start, right? Cramp. Cramp in the leg.
Still hungover from the sandbagger.
It's the humidity from Nashville kicking in late.
Oh, God.
Can't use that excuse now.
So, I mean, can he carry them, Biz?
Maybe put that Hermes pillow underneath your leg. Glad you got that in the screen there, spending some of that fucking show dough you made. Overpaid defenseman in fucking Newport.
I didn't know what that age stood for. But what were we talking about? Besser?
Yeah.
Yeah, right
I
there.
don't know. Like he's
got to play through
He's not going to carry them offensively, but he's going to get a chance to maybe show that he can still be an offensive contributor in the league, or else probably the trade deadline is going to be his worst enemy.
Do you think that they overblew some of the JT Miller stuff last year? Like, I know that at a certain point that, he was getting pissed off because there was a delayed penalty and maybe some of the body language on the ice. Like, is that just another Vancouver media situation of them stirring it up? Or do you think that needed to be cleaned up?
It's a little bit of both. I think he did. I don't think you guys have ever had him before, have you, on our podcast?
No. I hung out with him for the first time at a wedding this summer. He was a blast. A fucking crazy dude.
I don't think he's got a filter is what I understand.
Not from when I was hanging with him.
So the night of my retirement, we met for a drink after the game just to talk or whatever. But anyways, my point is he did a podcast this summer, Cam and Strict. Yeah. Cam Jansen's podcast. If you want to listen to it, I don't want to cross promote here, but it was really good.
Love those guys. You can cross promote all you want.
It was a really good podcast, and it was a good opportunity for him to kind of like get off of his chest his perspective of how that all unfolded. And he didn't like it because he felt like a couple of those plays the media used to kind of identify his season and his character. So he didn't like those plays. And I mean, I'm kind of on the fence about them because those two plays, like, yeah, they weren't great, like not back checking, the banging the stick on the net for the goalie to change. I have no problems with that, right? Like I yelled at a teammate once in a while too. I think there's nothing wrong with being intense like that. Just the effort plays, I think. But certainly, like, he seems like he's got great character from, I don't know what you think, Whit, but just from talking to him and hearing him talk, like, he seems accountable. And I mean, I think he'll have a great season. I think Talk's been unbelievable for him. Yeah. Right. I think Talk can push his buttons. And there's that mutual respect there because obviously of Talk's career and the way he played the game, I think there's going to be that respect there where Talk can get the most out of him.
What I got from him was like wants to win, like almost so much so that it kind of can take over him in a sense. But like I never knew anything about him as a guy, but like seeing his numbers the last 2 years, right? Like 99 points 2 years ago. He's right at a point per game last year, 32 goals both seasons. But he's an intense dude that there's no sort of laziness on his end to be a winner, right? So I think it almost gets like mistaken as being angry and upset. He's just so pissed off they're not a good team. That for me, like you said with Talk, it's like he knows what he did. He knows how he played. So if he's going to listen to anyone, it would be someone like Rick Tocchet. So I think he's going to have a monster year again. I just think that he gets disgusted with losing. So
can I ask you a question, Whit?
Yeah.
Can I ask you this, Whit? Like, what do you think about the comparison with him and Kesler? You play with Kes at the Olympics. How close or how similar do you think those personalities are?
Without playing with JT Miller, I can actually say that they did remind me of each other a little bit. And I remember playing with Kes. I remember him screaming at Getzlaf and Perry that those 2 games we played Canada, like just so intense, the desire to win, would do anything to win. And then in talking to JT Miller just about his season in a sense, even like listening to him talk about golf, he tried qualifying for the US Open. He's an intense guy that I actually think you're right. They have a lot of similarities together. And to hate somebody you play against is one thing. And Kesler was, people hated playing against him, but guys wanted to run their team. And I actually think JT Miller has even more offensive upside than Kesler ever did. I mean, I know Kesler was a big-time stud, goal-scoring, 40-goal guy, but JT Miller's shot and the way he skates, when that kid gets moving up ice, it's pretty tough to stop. So that's a good comparison.
Yeah, that's what they've made in Vancouver for years. Just the personality, right? Just super competitive, and maybe it comes off the wrong way at times, but
it comes off
like
as like arrogance. but it's not. It really isn't. And in talking to him, it's just like, I can't stand losing. I don't want to be a part of a losing team. I'm going to do whatever I can.
You also got to put that mask on it because like 82 games to carry that type of that type of intensity. Sometimes you have to turn it up, and maybe it's not coming as natural. But you got to find a way to kind of get it out of yourself. But moving away from that, I was going to talk to you about the back end. That's probably their weakest link, I think. They're just super thin back there. But there's one guy that he's playing 30 minutes a night. He just got handed the C, and that's Quinn Hughes. And this kid's a stud. I mean, he's an analytic darling. Like, what do you make of his game and as far as them handing the C over to him?
I like it. I think ultimate puck-moving defenseman. And like you said, you can play him 30 minutes. He's got an engine that never stops. It doesn't ever look like he looks tired out there. He kind of has that like tired, laboring look, but he's never actually, I don't think he's ever actually tired because he's such a great skater. But he, like the way their team is constructed, he can almost be your only puck-moving defenseman playing half the game. And then, like I said earlier, like everybody else just defends and plays hard and just gets the puck up to the forwards and let them do their thing. But I like it. I mean, he's the new NHL. Like these U.S. kids, man, they're taking over the game, right? Really, with him and the Jack and Cole Caulfield and Zegras and all of them. They're all taking over the game, and the Kachucks and Matthews, like they're all turning into being the leaders of their teams. And I think Quinn's going to be a good leader for those guys. Everybody likes him on the team. He's got kind of that quiet, reserved personality that I think does really well in a market like Vancouver, like a Henrik Sedin. Like Henrik Sedin wasn't in your face, loud. He was just quiet, kept to himself, did his job, did his media requests when he had to, but wasn't like an overly public guy. And I think that'll be really good for Quinn. I think he'll handle the media well.
In looking at the team, though, there is a lot of kind of similarities, and you could argue, obviously, there's Ekman Larsson's gone, but they, in a sense, they are kind of bringing back the same team. And when you look at like how last season went, if they do get off to a slow start, that's when you start talking about the media and them just becoming just horrible to deal with in that city, right?
Yeah, for sure. Like they need a good start. I think back to Demko. I think it all starts with Demko at the beginning. Right. And I don't know if we're going to get to Anaheim. It's almost the same with Anaheim. Like if John Gibson doesn't stand on his head early, they get off to a bad start and then everything just snowballs out of control. Because when you have these young teams, they're very fragile, I feel like, at the beginning of the season. And if you don't have a good start, things can really go the wrong way. And I think the goalie is the one guy who can make sure you get out of the gates strong.
Before we move on to Anaheim, we got to see playoffs. Do you think Vancouver makes the playoffs, Juice, this year or what? I'm not putting you on spot.
I'll say.
Here's a couple
He's going to say.
To the cup.
There was a juice night in Vancouver last year. Yeah, they're going to miss by 30 points.
Canucks versus Coyotes in the conference final.
Yeah,
right,
matching suits. Matching suits.
Yeah. Let's see how they get out of the gates. Let's see how they get out of the gates, RA.
Before you answer that, and if you do, a pretty cool video came out about talking and mentioning that coaching staff. You got some fucking big names in there. You got Adam Foote helping him out. You got Sergei Gonchar, and apparently it's going to be the Sedin brothers helping with the power play. Like, how do you think that collective help from that coaching staff will amplify the group?
It'll be unbelievable. Again, if you're a guy in that locker room on that team, how do you not listen to these voices? These guys are Hall of Famers, like Olympians, all-stars. Like you got everything right there. You got everything that you could possibly need and want. So I know there's a couple, the Sedins kind of started getting onto the ice more and more last year. And they were showing some of these guys things that, like talking with Chris Higgins that works for the team. He's showing these kids something where I'm still learning. Like Higgins has been retired now. And the Sedins are showing him something like on the wall, how to counter pinch a defenseman. And he's like, oh my God, that is so smart. The Twins kept a lot of this stuff to themselves when they played. They were just so smart and so ahead of their time. And now they're starting to teach it to some of these younger guys. So what an asset. And then Adam Foote, I got to know Footer a bunch because we kind of both worked for my agent, helping develop some of their defensemen in the NHL. So I've been on the ice with him quite a bit. And he's another guy. He's got all these little old school tricks that defensemen use.
Guy in the spleen.
Yeah, but a little bit more subtle than that. But he's got some of these, but just something simple like when you make a pass, your first step after you make your pass is recover to the middle. So you make your pass wherever it is in the D zone. First step is recovering the ball. Like just little tips like that some of these young guys aren't taught at a young age. And I don't think there's as much teaching anymore of like how the game is played and structure. I think it's more like skill development. I know it is just from being in the minor hockey environment. So to have guys like that, I think is going to be huge for them.
Yeah, I agree. Like just all those little details, if you add them up over time, it's just going to help you win games. Like you said, like guys firing an outlet pass and they're just kind of admiring it as opposed to skating up and getting your gap because, hey, if that puck gets turned over and you're backed into your blue line, if it gets turned over, you got no gap, and next thing you know, you're fucking hemmed in for another 45 seconds as opposed to closing the guy off at the blue line.
Look at you, X's and O's.
Little fucking hockey knowledge for all you fans.
Bring him in to coach the kid.
Yeah. Just dialing it up right now,
the coaching staff. They tried to get me on the coaching staff. I said no.
I doubt it.
I just don't want to sit down with Aquilini for too many dinners. At Eliza.
At one of his apartments.
Next question. Next question is.
Hey, well, no, the next one is, do they make playoffs or not? You got to answer it.
He said yes.
He
said yes.
Oh, you got to make them playoffs.
I said yes. I don't know who they're going to make it instead of, right? Like, obviously, Vegas is probably going to be in the mix again. Will Calgary fall off? I don't know. Edmonton's going to be there. So you got Edmonton and Vegas in for sure. Coyotes aren't making it, but I hate to say it. Kings. So now you're looking for like a wild card. You're battling for a wild card spot. So good luck.
I think they're going to be battling at the end. I don't think they're going to get in. But it's funny, like as much as 2 years ago we were saying the Pacific was the worst division in hockey, I think it's arguably the best now. Now, if Calgary has a big bounce back season, that's kind of like dependent on them and Vancouver competing. But the Pacific now it's murderer's row.
Guys, Vegas and Oilers was the Stanley Cup final last year's playoffs. I really believe it. A lot of people, you said it too? Yeah, a lot of people believe those were the two best teams. And what a series it was. That determined the winner right there. And that's why a lot of the talk is let's have some realignment here for the playoffs. Go back to the 1 versus 8. So you don't have to have the two best teams playing in the second round.
Well, it's going to happen again, especially with the Kings in the mix. I actually think the Kings are the best team in that division.
There's no way.
What do you mean? No way. Look at their look at the middle of their ice.
Dude. It's the goaltending.
Vegas fucking wrote. Vegas would have had RA in net if Hill would have went down, and it wouldn't have mattered.
The money's right.
They were on the seventh.
Right. You're not taking league men, RA? You won't take league men?
Fuck, I'll take a case of fucking Big Deal Brew to get me out there.
Yeah, a bag.
Biz, what do you got for playoffs? Vancouver make it or what?
I hate to do this to my boy. I think that they're going to fight for a wild card, but I just think that the division's too strong. And like you just mentioned Calgary. Like I think that Calgary ends up sneaking in. They led the league last year in 1-goal losses. They had 31 goal losses, the most since like 2010, 17 of which in shootout and overtime. And the fact that they got some new coaching staff and who was the assistant coach they picked up, used to play for the Bruins, Savard. I think that his connection with Huberdeau is going to help out, and that's going to amplify his offense. If Huberdeau has 20, 25 more points where he's normally at, I think that they're in the playoffs last year because they only missed it by a few points. So I don't have Vancouver making it, unfortunately, and but I definitely a lot better than last year, that's for sure. So no. And Juice, we got to get on to Anaheim now.
Hold on, RA, would you have him making it?
You know what? I think Demko is going to bounce back. I think Talkin's got their attention. I think they're going to play hard for him. I think they were only 12 points back on Winnipeg on the last spot last year. Yeah, you know what? I think they can. I think Winnipeg's going to falter a bit. Wouldn't be surprised if they trade Hellebuck at some point. Wow. I think Vancouver's going to gel, man. They were just sort of an assortment of parts before Talkin got there. I think he's going to bring them together. Demko, yeah, I think they will squeeze in a wild card. Yes.
Their bottom 6 is going to have to establish an identity because right now you just like don't know what you're getting from those guys. So we'll see what they can do with them, that coaching staff.
My hot take of Vancouver is if they do get in the playoffs, I think Elias Pettersson's up for MVP. Ooh. If they get in,
and Selke,
he's right there.
And Selke?
And Selke. No? There you go.
MVP and Selke.
I like the moves on D, like not huge stuff, but they had brought in Roenick before. Cole's, he's a thumper in his own end. And what's his name? Susie. I just think that they got a lot better there. They were 24th in goals against last year. I think they'll really clean it up in their own end. And yeah, I think they're going to be significantly better.
So I always think about like the 1 year, and I don't think you were there with the year Pittsburgh won the one cup. They had Letang, obviously puck mover, and then they had a bunch of like Rob Scuderies and I think maybe Schultz was there, but he was just kind of like a resurgence of his career. It was all just a bunch of like Ian Cole, just Ryan a bunch of guys that just shot the puck off the glass and let the forwards do their thing. And then Fleury was amazing in that, or Murray. I don't know which one it was, but that's almost the kind of the identity the Canucks are going to have. They're going to have one puck mover. They're going to have a bunch of big lugs on D that can defend and clear the front of the net. Demko's going to stand on his head, and then they're going to have like a deadly power play. That's kind of the recipe for me if they're going to be successful. And I'm pretty sure Talk was there during that, so it all makes sense, right? Like that's how they need to play, I think, to be successful.
We can't leave Quinn Hughes' stunt double out. We got to see what his perspective is. G, does your boy make the playoffs this year or what?
No shot. I don't think there's a shot. I don't think there's a shot.
Fuck you, Juice. Fuck you in your opinion.
No chance.
Talking to you in a headlock, dude.
Oh, yeah.
See him.
He's going to shave your head with his Bic razor.